Hi, this is Ryax, and you are live in Limbo.
Hi guys, I'm Gemma from Live in Limbo, and I'm here with Rye in Toronto for his first ever show in Canada. How's it going?
It's going really well. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I really love Canada, so it's good to be here.
That's good. How are you feeling about it being your first show in Canada?
Yeah, it feels really nice. I've spent a lot of my energy touring Europe the last few years, so it's taken me a while to come back and put the energy in the US and in Canada, and I'm really happy to be in this beautiful venue, and you know, to kind of know that a lot of people are coming tonight makes me feel really humbled, so I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to tell me a bit about where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in Australia. I'm Australian. I grew up in a really little town called Angourie, just a few hundred people, lots of space. Grew up surfing and exploring the wild, and you know, being a little kind of grubby punk kid somehow. BMXs and listening to my dad's vinyl records. You know, it was a really beautiful upbringing. We ate all the food from our garden and had goats and chickens, and yeah, hippie parents.
So you have a strong connection with nature, I imagine.
Yeah, very much, very much so.
That's awesome. Where are you currently living?
I'm based out of LA. I have based myself out of Berlin the last kind of handful of years as well. In the summers, been in Europe and touring there a lot. So Berlin's really a place that I feel at home creatively and kind of culturally as well in the artistic community there. But LA is the place I've been for like almost a decade now as my kind of base and my place to make work and create from.
What was the transition like moving from Australia and you said Berlin, right? And then to LA?
It was really crazy. You know, to move from I was born on an island out in Australia, so to move from that context and then kind of accidentally come upon LA and be asked to move there was a really strange thing. And it took me a long time to fall in love with it, you know, to find the aspects. For me, I kind of have to have the ocean, so having California at my doorstep allows me to run away and surf and get into the mountains and connecting with other things. But then living in such a major city, you know, has creative energies and amazing kind of culture and underground kind of movements, and I love being a part of that as well. So you know, it's able to fuel both the sides of me, but I do miss that simple kind of little old school surfy lifestyle sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So for the past few years, you've been touring on and off through Europe. However, since you've been touring more through North America for past however many months, right?
Yeah, just kind of starting out to do some things here in the US and bringing the energy back to North America and obviously Canada and the US, and just trying to open it out a little bit. I've been really focused out of Europe, so it's nice to open it out. After this, I go back to Europe and I tour there for about 3 weeks, and then a little short time off, and then I go down to Australia and play some festivals and shows. So it's a lot, you know, when you've got a tour, you know, 6 to 8 months of the year. It's a lot of energy, and wanting to have a life outside of that still makes sense, is coherent, and then you can take care of your body and your mind, and it's a balance for sure.
Has the audience response been different?
Yeah, it has. I think just culturally, the US is a very different place. I mean, obviously LA, New York are kind of islands, and just even coming up here to Toronto, I'm feeling more at home than I did, say, in Columbus, Ohio, or in Chicago. Even though I really love Chicago too, it was a great trip there. But I think culturally, it just some aspects of the US that sometimes I struggle against, even though I live there. So it is a little bit different culturally, and therefore the audiences and the venues and all that stuff too.
Yeah, Toronto has definitely a very alternative side to it. So
yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I already feel that.
So since the release of your Berlin EP in 2013, you had a few other releases, and now you re-released most of your songs on your new album, Dawn. So certain ones, such as Shortline, they sound different. Is that because change in perspective, or just you wanted a new sound?
It came from touring, from playing the songs out for a year or two, and just learning new ways to approach songs and creative kind of songwriting and building arrangement. And we were able to figure out some new ways to play the songs live, and I wanted that to make sense on a record rather than pulling a song from 4 years ago onto something. It's kind of reinventing it. But this first record for me, it was really important to have the lineage of, the Berlin EP and the releases I put out on my own record label and stuff, and put it all together in a place where everybody could really at least have a grounding and understanding who I am. And that also gives me freedom now to move on and shift a little bit through many genres. And, I have a couple of other projects. I'm always kind of jumping between worlds. So it's nice to kind of have that freedom. And I think getting that first record out now gives me a platform to explore more.
How come you chose Dawn as the album title?
It was, I had this old convertible Cadillac in California, and I was living up in these mountains above the ocean when I was writing that album, and it was tucked way up in the mountains. And I remember driving down pre-dawn one day, and the sun was just starting to come up, and there was all this mist and driving through this cloud basically, and it was this really beautiful moment. And I'd been so deep in this creation, and I watched like one of the most beautiful sunrises I've ever seen, and I think it was just that idea that there's such a sacred time of the day and such a moment that not many of us connect to, Mm-hmm. A lot of us watch the sunset perhaps, but not the sunrise. It's this really kind of precious moment, and for me the record felt a little bit like that, like it would make sense in that context. It would make sense if you'd stayed up all night until the sunrise, it would make sense. And if you'd woken up really early in a kind of meditative state, it would make sense. It was that, and then just the idea of kind of the beginning, doing the acid, another one of my projects, and howling, and these different things to consolidate Ryex and to put a record together and put it out felt like a definitive beginning in a way too. So
yeah, of course. Would you say the album holds one general meaning?
I think they always hold a few, I think even in the context or idea of something like Melancholia, it's happy and sad. It has joy, and it has sadness, it has loss, and it has possibility. And I think the record kind of holds all that stuff too. It's a very personal journal of my experiences. It's specifically related to sensuality and love and lust and relationships in a lot of ways, but it more so the mirror of what's happening for me within those relationships. And I think I always stray to that, this idea of love, because it's such a definitive thing, but I tend to explore it from a very personal standpoint, whether that be like little images and moments that I remember, or something that's just very personal lyrically. So I don't know if sometimes people quite even know what I'm talking about, but that's okay by me.
So your first single or biggest release was the song Berlin. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me a bit about that? Yeah,
I had some time back in Australia, in Byron Bay, where I grew up, which is this idyllic, beautiful, Angari and Byron. These areas are just paradise. You're eating mangoes, you're on the beach, everyone's half naked, it's surfing all day, there's dolphins. It's really a beautiful kind of life. And I flew from there directly to Berlin, and I was going to see a girl that I was in a relationship with, and I arrived there in Berlin in the middle of winter, and it was minus 20, and it was just brutal. Everything about it, the weather, the feeling, it was so abrasive and oppressive, and I just really quickly realized that I'd kind of fucked up by getting on that plane and going there. And then also in the sense of this relationship too, just realizing that we are just very different human beings, and so it was quite tough. And I think Berlin was just the product of that kind of acknowledgement and release.
Yeah, that's super inspiring. I've also heard that you have a strong admiration for raw music,
Yeah.
real music, but you also like electronic, and you feel passionate about that being able to be presented live. So how do you feel about electronic music being so big now?
I mean, you take any genre and there's good and bad aspects of it. There's great rap, there's pretty bad rap, you know, there's like the quintessential, like, beautiful folk artists, and then there's really cheesy folk music. And folk music's just kind of been kind of pulled apart in the pop mainstream too. Electronic as a genre has so many different aspects. The reason I have such a connection to electronic music comes more through, for example, the deep house and techno worlds of Berlin, which I've spent a lot of time, or the more explorative worlds of stuff where it's been integrated, like a Bjork or a Massive Attack or a Radiohead, or these different bands have been able to integrate electronic aspects to their music and pull it in. And there's other people that have done that well early on, you know, even the James Blakes and stuff. And it's just that then there's this massive wave, and it's very hard sometimes to sift through all of the shit, all the bad music to get to the good stuff. But there's beautiful, you know, music, and it doesn't matter how it's made. What matters is that it's from the heart. And I think in a live context, there's too many people on stages with computers just pressing play and singing over the top, and they've lost the ability to be artists. They're doing the same thing every night, and their light shows linked to that. And it's a lot harder to make it happen live. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of dedication, but that allows you to explore and grow. And that's something that I'm really passionate about in all the projects, and especially in melding together the idea of like old analog synthesizers and acoustic guitars and voices and drum machines. Like, how do you get all of that to be coherent and still be emotional and still be from the heart? So that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah, we definitely share a similar viewpoint on that, because to me, it almost seems too easy that these people go on stage and it's a laptop, you know?
Yeah, and there's not enough. Maybe there hasn't been enough backlash. Maybe it's like people just see it on stage and they go, "Oh, that's fine, sounds okay," but they're not getting moved inside. You know, they're like, "That was a really cool show," but they're not leaving going, "Wow, I feel different. I feel changed." And I think that's, having said that, there are amazing ways to use a computer, but you have to use it like an instrument. You can't just press play and then pretend to play over the top. It's just not cool.
Yeah, definitely not. So should fans expect any new material anytime soon?
Yeah, tons. We were just in soundcheck. We were just trying out some new songs that I've been writing and producing, and the plan for me is to keep releasing music pretty consistently over the next year or so, and not really wait until another album just to put things out. So I imagine in the next few months there'll be another song out, and maybe I might go back to that format of doing like an A and a B side. So I'm excited about just freeing up the release idea and breaking down the kind of mechanical machine of the music industry, and just putting music out for people and having that connection.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Gemma, and you are live in Limbo.